Cody Rhodes retained the WWE Undisputed title against Kevin Owens in the main event on the December 14th edition of Saturday Night's Main Event, the return to NBC, but he paid for it afterwards, and Triple H also got involved. We're going to talk about that and everything else that happened on this particular show. Before we do that, again, I keep telling you guys, hit that subscribe button. Lots of fun stuff coming here daily at Wrestling Reaction on the road to the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania 41, even some stuff we haven't done here before that I think you're really going to enjoy if you're a WWE fan. So, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate your support of the channel. But let's get into everything because from a predictability standpoint, this was a bit of a predictable show in terms of who was going to win these matches. I didn't really see a lot of things deviating from the course here, knowing the direction they're headed in towards that January 6th Raw on Netflix debut and towards the Royal Rumble in WrestleMania 41. So we'll get into those in a second. But you did get perhaps the predictable, finish in the main event where it is Cody Rhodes retaining the championship against Kevin Owens in a wild match because you had multiple ref bumps. You had Cody hitting the RKO on the announce table. You had Kevin Owens trying to do anything he could to get that championship around his waist. And, of course, after the first ref bump, Owens hits the stunner, thinks he has it won, but nope, the referee's down. Another referee comes in. It's too late, right? Can't get the 3 count. Then you have Owens go to the desperation point of, all right, let me bring a chair into the ring. Well, that's eventually used against him as Cody hits the crossroads on the chair, and that is what eventually secures the win for Cody as the referee didn't even have to get back in the ring. He just counted from the outside and counted on the apron, did Charles Robinson. So, and I know some people were kind of picking on Cody for that in terms of, that's kind of a heelish move, but I keep saying, I don't think we're looking at a Cody heel turn anytime soon, folks. He's the face of the company, and I just don't think that's going to happen. Down the road, potentially, Jesse the Body Ventura was trying to push Cody Rhodes as this guy with his heelish tactics and all that. You got to love Jesse. I thought he was great in his return to commentary here. But the bigger picture is what happened after the match, right? Where you did have Cody celebrating with the Winged Eagle title. We knew that was coming back after the teases they made. And then it's Kevin Owens hitting the piledriver on Cody Rhodes. Cody's getting stretchered out. Owens takes the championship away from him, and Owens is getting out of there. He's getting out of the Nassau Coliseum with the title. He's the champion now, right? That's not exactly how it works. But someone who was not happy about this and someone who was very pissed off was Triple H, because Triple H comes out and we get a big altercation between Triple H and Kevin Owens on the stage, and it even leads to a bit of a shoving match here, where Triple H gives Kevin Owens a huge shove. And then Owens decides to give Triple H, the guy who we know, for health reasons, is likely never going to compete again inside a WWE ring. Well, Owens shoves that guy. And so that now escalates this thing even further. Cody's taken to the hospital on a stretcher. Kevin Owens has shoved Triple H. What happens next? That's exactly the question they want us asking coming out of this. And I think there's a lot of different ways you can go with this, right? Because we keep saying, what is the ultimate destination for Cody Rhodes? And is he going to face The Rock or Roman Reigns in some combination at WrestleMania 41? Is a match with Randy Orton still on the cards potentially for WrestleMania 41? Or does that maybe get pushed further down the line at SummerSlam next year? These are different options you have to work with. But I think this is something where when you look at just kind of all the relationships between these guys, right? Again, I keep saying it. That is the one thing that Triple H has kind of nailed here, is the reality and relationships portion of how all these people interact, right? Kevin Owens was Triple H's guy in NXT. He's always been his guy, right? But Triple H has chosen Cody Rhodes, just as Kevin Owens has continued to say. Cody is the face of the company now, right? Cody's the one getting all the opportunities. And Triple H has chosen Cody over Kevin Owens, his guy. Of course, Randy Orton was Triple H's first guy here, if you look at it, back at the Evolution days and all that. So is Randy Orton going to eventually have that same sort of feeling? Is he going to come full circle here and realize that Kevin Owens is right, which is the whole story that they're pushing, right? And so could that eventually happen? I don't know how they work that in just yet, but we know Cody just kind of had the same thing happen to him, getting taken out by the piledriver. So how does that, again, kind of facilitate both their returns now, both Orton and Cody coming off of this, and what do they do to Owens? That's the big question. But you also can kind of compare this to, as some people have, it's kind of somewhat similar to Triple H maybe choosing CM Punk over Seth Rollins, and how Seth Rollins can kind of use that as fuel in this long-term story. They're going to have multiple matches. We know that. And so it seems like the first one could come on January 6th on the Raw Netflix debut. But you've got Triple H also intertwined in all of this because, again, if you're watching WWE, you know who Triple H is. You know he's the guy kind of calling the shots. You know the history. And you know, that, again, the history that he has with a lot of these top stars based on either them coming up through NXT or, again, in Randy Orton's case, I mean, working with a guy, 20 plus years ago, all that. So I think these are all the things they're going to keep being able to play around with in terms of the story. And this was one of those developments, again, we maybe could have seen at some point, but you didn't know it was going to happen here. You didn't know that Kevin Owens and Triple H, after the show goes off the air, all of a sudden going to be shoving each other, and Triple H is going all in on that shove. I mean, he gave Owens a bit of a push there. So kind of holding back some of that, in-ring stuff that he's not been able to do. I'm just going to haul off and give this guy a bit of a shove. Owens does the same thing. And so now, how is Triple H going to react to what Kevin Owens has done to the face of the company, Cody Rhodes? We're going to find out soon enough. And then, how does that lead to whatever's next, right? Do we get another match in the Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes saga? How does Randy Orton come back into this thing now, knowing that Cody is kind of in, again, a similar situation? He's taken out by this piledriver. Cody's the WWE Undisputed Champion. When does he return? How does that affect the next match that Cody has in terms of the injuries and all this stuff that we know for the old school nature of Triple H, Cody Rhodes, and everyone else? They're going to play into this. How does that affect what we do now on the road to the next Saturday night's main event, which is beyond the January 6th Netflix show, the next biggest show after that, and then it is getting to the Royal Rumble. You got Elimination Chamber between there, and then, of course, WrestleMania 41. So a lot of big shows still to come where you can do more of these big matches and big angles. You don't have to save it all for WrestleMania 41 because there are plenty of big matches still out there, as we said, for Cody. And we still think the idea is that Kevin Owens will be paired with Sami Zayn at WrestleMania 41. What's going to happen with Orton if Cody has other things to do? This is where I think adding the Triple H dynamic into the mix makes this a lot more fascinating. And so I'm very excited now to see where they go from here. And I do like the fact, too, people were like, well, why didn't they show this on the air? Well, WWE from a business perspective, I saw some people talking about the commercials. There's a lot of promotion going on right now in WWE for everything that they're doing, but they are just such a well-oiled machine where they're pushing every possible product they can. They're in a big spot on NBC. There's just a lot of stuff you want to get out there on this kind of show in the return to try to hook in new fans. You want to get some people back into the mix to get ready for Netflix, in several weeks' time now. And so that's kind of where we are, I think, with all this. But it's going to be fun, I think, to see where we go from here with this whole main event scene now with these guys. And, some big matches are going to be in store. And, we'll find out how they decide to push the buttons and which matches we're going to get earlier or later or maybe even further down the line than we think. But a lot still to come with this stuff. And again, I do like the fact that they do some of this off the air to push you to their YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff. And so, it's just a business thing. It's what they're trying to do for business, social media, all that. And so that's why they're being creative with what they can do and not necessarily having to show everything on the air. It's no different than the Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, thing out by the bus, right? Where Owens attacks him. It's those kind of things. So they're having fun with it, and they're clearly having fun with the storyline right now, and we'll see where it goes from here. You guys let me know your thoughts. What do you think is going to happen next? Triple H, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes. How does this all get solved? All right, the other world title was on the line, as we know. Gunther successfully retains against Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Not much of a surprise here. We knew that was going to be the case. As we said, it was really just a matter of seeing what you could push with Priest and Balor and how that was going to play into Gunther being able to retain. Just did not have, again, a lot of suspense here as to who was going to be the winner. It was going to be Gunther. They still continued Michael Cole on commentary. Of course, Pat McAfee made his return here as well. But they pushed on commentary. Still the confidence issues for Gunther, so that's still something that they're going to play up moving forward. But get a little more of that confidence back after getting a win against the two guys that, had sort of been involved in what Gunther had called not clean wins, right? They'd somehow, these two been, kind of involved in that over the last several months. And so you didn't really just, again, have a lot of doubt as to who was going to win this match. I mentioned I had no problem adding Priest into this because the one-on-one match between Gunther and Balor, while it would have been a great match, you just would have never probably had the story built into where Balor was going to beat Gunther. At least in this scenario, you could have, believed a possible outcome where maybe one of these guys, just gets the upper hand and that's able to help him win the championship. But in reality, it was just never going to happen. So Gunther's still your champion. And now I think for Gunther, really the next question is for him, who's next, right? And I don't think it's going to be Goldberg. Maybe I asked the right question. Maybe it will be Goldberg. But I think it is. Who's next for Gunther? Because now I would think you're moving on from these two in terms of the championship right now. Could circle back around in the future. Sure, he could. Could Balor do the same thing? Sure, he could. But I just think you now move past this and now get into the next thing, which, as we've said, if you're looking at challengers, a lot of that could honestly depend on whether Gunther's going to stay on Raw. Or does he move to SmackDown, in the transfer window? That's another question that we have out there. So challengers could look a little bit different for Gunther than what we think right now, because you would think for this Raw and Netflix thing, is Cody moving to Raw? The Bloodline moving to Raw? Like, you're going to really stack up this show, I think, for the first little while, at least on Netflix. You're going to have John Cena there, you're going to have Punk there, and so forth. Is Gunther the person who's going to have to kind of carry the mantle on SmackDown for a while as the World Heavyweight Champion? I could certainly see that as an option. I am going to do another video, 5 transfers I'd love to see in this transfer window. I'm going to do that for members only, so you can hit that join button on the video, and you can join the Tribal Chiefs here at Wrestling Reaction, $3.99 a month. You can check out that video I'm going to do tomorrow. But so is that a possibility? So I think it's going to be fascinating to see what's next for Gunther, because we said Kaiser's still out there as a possibility based on the way they've been playing up that dynamic. So do we get a Kaiser-Gunther match for the World Heavyweight Championship? And there are some other obvious options out there. We'll talk more about those, going forward. But for now, Gunther retains. No surprise, I think, in this particular scenario. Speaking of retaining a title, it was Liv Morgan also retaining a championship as she defeated Io Sky here and then set up pretty much everything you needed to know. I'd be stunned if we're not going to get Liv Morgan defending her title against Rhea Ripley on the Raw Netflix debut, because she gets the win here. I mentioned all the possibilities. Could you have Io Sky upset her? All this. I said maybe, but the problem is the direction they want to head in, and that is another match between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. They can no longer hold it off until WrestleMania 41. I just don't think it's possible. And so they clearly set this up. Rhea comes out afterwards. Liv steps up to her. Liv holds up the title. You've got as clear as day. This is the match they're setting up. The rematch, one-on-one, and I would assume, unless I've missed it, I don't think I've seen it announced, but I would assume that's coming on January the 6th on Netflix. I just think that's the obvious place to do it. There's no reason to drag this out to the Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, anything like that. Like, now is the time. Go ahead and do the match. And perhaps one of my predictions that I made for members in my 5 predictions for the Raw Netflix debut, you can check out that video as well. Perhaps one of those will come true if that is the match that's going to happen. You can check out that video to get more of my thoughts on that. But it seems like that is where we're headed. And, again, we'll talk about, what that could mean for the women's division heading into the Royal Rumble and all that, or at least for the women's World Heavyweight Championship. But for now, again, this was not surprising. I thought for Liv to get the win here. Io Sky could be back in the rotation at some point soon enough. Maybe Rumble, that kind of stuff. But this was the match they were going to get to. And so you had to do this to get it basically out of the way and get to the next thing, which the next thing is the biggest thing for them, and that is Liv versus Rhea, one-on-one for the championship. So we're headed there. We know it also Liv, got the nose busted open on that cake. Was brutal. The replay they showed, like, you just tell, like, you're watching that replay, you're like, ooh, that didn't look good. But it seems like based on reports, Liv's fine coming out of this, but a little bleeding coming out of the nose there. And so, yeah, but seems like she's okay and will be just fine. So, all right, Liv retains the title. And speaking of championships, Chelsea Green, your first ever WWE Women's Undisputed United States title. Added the Undisputed in there. I don't want any dispute as to Chelsea Green being the wrongful champion. She is the rightful champion. You guys know I talked about that in my predictions. I just thought this was a great, kind of spot to put Chelsea in, to showcase the talent that she has. And we, again, go all the way back. We're talking about her before Money in the Bank this summer and everything about how her stock is just rising further and further. And I think this was something where she earned the opportunity to get a shot with this championship. I keep saying I don't think these mid-card titles, we're not looking at multi-year reigns or anything like that. But this now gives a Chelsea Green an opportunity to run with the championship and see what she can make out of it, right? Because she's done so much, I think for the brand here. When you think about just kind of, yes, that you can look at her as a comedy figure or whatever, but if you look at the last couple matches, right? She's winning clean in some of these, and sure, Piper Niven's kind of still on the peripheral and everything, but she's finding ways to win these matches, and I think that's going to be something where you could kind of see that arc now for Chelsea, where all of a sudden everybody's kind of, sees her as the joke and all this other stuff. She's won the championship, and now how does she continue to develop from here? I think that's going to be the fun part as we see here. And sure, could you still get some of the shenanigans and all that stuff thrown into a title run from Chelsea? Sure you could. But I think it's going to be a lot more exciting just to see, again, how she develops as a wrestler, right? And it seems like they've kind of played that up, giving her two somewhat cleanish wins here, back to back, beating Bayley, beating Michin, two kind of rivals for her, especially Michin. They brought up the history from those two back in TNA 7 years ago, winning the championship. Michin's her first opponent, all those things. And so I think that this is really a great opportunity. And they've already come out with a shirt. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Go find it right now. It's got, what is it, like the Statue of Liberty? It's got the red, white, and blue, and it's got Chelsea's face right there on the Statue of Liberty. So I think it's a great kind of deal they're going to push here with her, but I'm excited to see what she can do with this championship, because there are so many ways you can play this out, because you can tell me the fans were fully behind her here, and that's the thing, right? Yes, there are Michin fans too, but they were fully on board with the idea that Chelsea should be the champion, and I think it was the rightful winner. These two will probably, lock up again in the future, but for now, Chelsea's the right choice, and I'm really excited to see what she's going to be able to do with this Women's United States Championship, because they want to set a good precedent with these mid-card titles, make sure they mean something, and I think Chelsea is going to go all in on, the idea that she's going to make this as good as it can get, and kind of a must-see part of the show each week. So should be fun with that. And then the other match we had on this show, Drew McIntyre defeats Sami Zayn. I said, Drew coming back, I just thought that he was going to get the win here, because it was kind of, still pushing the idea that he's out for revenge on anyone associated with the bloodline. They said as much on commentary. We knew that coming in. So anyone who has associated themselves with Roman Reigns, the bloodline, based on Drew's past with him, just as we said with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens and everyone else, like they're all kind of tying this in. And so Drew McIntyre's on the same page here mentally with a Rollins and an Owens right now. You do not want to associate yourself with a bloodline, or Drew McIntyre's coming after you. And so he does that here, gets the win with the Claymore over Sami Zayn. And now we see how Drew's path continues. He took out, Jimmy Uso on SmackDown. We know Jay's still out there. That's probably a one-on-one match you're going to get here at some point. Once Jay is medically cleared, as we know, taken out in the back there a couple weeks ago. But now I think you've got a scenario where it's going to be fun to kind of see what Drew can come up with here as he continues to chase these people who have associated themselves with Roman Reigns and the bloodline. And so that's kind of going to be the story here moving forward. And like we said, I think for Sami, you would think big picture, his story is going to be all about Kevin Owens leading into perhaps WrestleMania 41. I think Drew's an interesting figure too, leading into WrestleMania 41. He's someone else, I think, that, if you're having to pick Drew's match right now for WrestleMania 41, you guys give me your predictions in the comments. I'm curious what you would come up with on this as to who you think maybe he's going to get a match with on that show, because we've already kind of feel like we've filled in some of the spots elsewhere, but Drew may be the guy that's kind of on the outside looking in right now. And if we go back to WrestleMania 40, afterwards we did the WrestleMania 41 card predictions. I had Drew McIntyre versus John Cena, because I kept saying what a promo idea that would be for Drew McIntyre to go at Cena in his farewell tour, which at the time we didn't know it was a farewell tour, but we thought, okay, this could be John Cena's last WrestleMania match. All kind of the promo fuel that Drew McIntyre could have, as the former chosen one. John Cena was the chosen one, all these things. But if we say, all right, Cena could be occupied with, let's say, a Randy Orton or a Gunther, something like that at WrestleMania 41, what could that mean for McIntyre? What's he going to do at that show? I'm sure there are dots that we're going to connect to figure that out. But for now, I want to know what you guys think about who Drew McIntyre should face at WrestleMania 41. But there you go, guys. Saturday night's main event, the first one, the return in the books. And I thought I liked the nostalgia feel. The referees wearing the normal shirts they had back in the day. You had the Winged Eagle title coming back. Jesse the Body Ventura making an appearance. The backstage stuff, the interview, backdrop and everything. I love it. I love the 80s stuff. Still, I could go back and watch the 80s stuff in WWF every day. I could. I love it. I love the old school nature of it. And so, I can always appreciate a fun throwback like this. And we're going to get another, episode of this coming up next month in San Antonio. So should be fun. And again, guys, let me know your thoughts on this particular Saturday night's main event. What do you see coming out of it with all the big storylines? Let me know your predictions and thoughts in the comments as always. And again, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. A lot of fun stuff coming your way at Wrestling Reaction. But thanks, guys. I appreciate you watching. And let me know your thoughts on Saturday night's main event.